welcome to this week's episode of our lovely podcast. With me is...
Nathan Ward. Hello there.
And my name's Helen Tovey, and we together work on all sorts of things to do with family history. So we do magazine, webinars, courses, this lovely, lovely podcast, writing blogs, all sorts of things. As long as it's to do with family history, count us in, basically. Wouldn't you say, Nathan?
Yep, we'll do it.
Yeah. So what have you been getting up to then over the last week since I last saw you?
I've been a very good boy and done, well, some of my homework, not all of my homework. I've not yet sent my letter off to my great aunt that I said I was going to send her about my great granddad. But I'm still thinking about it. I'm still composing it in my head. So that's going to go ahead. And then I went back to I don't know if you remember, I was saying I wanted to be like meticulous and revisit everyone. So I thought, right, how shall I do this? What structure shall I take? So I thought, right, I know my grandparents. They're fairly modern. They're only going to... well, no, they wouldn't. They won't even appear on a census yet, will they? They're not. They're too young. So I went back to the great-grandparents and I thought, right, I'm going to go through every single great-grandparent and make sure they are on as many censuses or linked to as many censuses as possible. They're all like 1900 plus. So it would only be 3 censuses and then maybe the 1939 register.
Look at you checking out all your knowledge. So excited.
I've got numbers. I know numbers and letters. I'm all over this. So I kind of did the process where I've as previously mentioned, where I like to chart their lives in like a timeline fashion. And when I first started doing this, it was quite elaborate. It was quite involved. But to get these guys up to speed, I've streamlined it even more. So I literally wrote the name, wrote the date of birth down, and then from that point, put each census down, making sure I paused for when they got married, particularly if they were female, because obviously that would change their name in the census that followed. So just so I could track them and find them. So I wrote these little mini lists and literally went through all 8 of my grandparents and found them all on the census, which was cool. Some of them I had already been quite heavily involved in due to like my random searches. Obviously, George Horatio Nelson, he's not my great-grandparent, he's one after. But in getting to him and getting all his details, his timeline of, his children are more filled out than some of my other grandparents. So some of them were easier, some of them were trickier, but I got through it all. And then in doing that, lots of questions came up, obviously, as always. So I've got myself a few little rabbit holes that I'm quite excited to go through. One of them was, again, I'm getting ahead of myself, but my great-grandparent, David G. Hearn, who is my dad's mum's dad, his dad was born in India. So I want to research him a bit more, because obviously I don't know what time he was placed in India. Why was he born in India? What was going on? As I always say, I've got no sense of context and time and what was going on. So I need to find out the dates he was in India, or why his parents were in India, I guess, because he was born there. So I've got a little research project there. I think that sounds quite fun. And I found some extra siblings that I didn't know were on there, which was good, but also once again terrified me a little bit. I was like, how have I missed this sibling? Like there's a blank in the timeline. So I've got, again, for David G. Hearn, I have got a Mary Elizabeth, who was a sister, but she only appears on one census. But I think she was, this is challenging me to remember now, I think she was 7 or 8, so she's not like a baby. So I need to do some research into her and find out where she disappeared off to. Hopefully it's a good story. Hopefully she got married and went off somewhere. Nothing too dark. And also his wife, this is quite interesting actually, right? His wife had stepchildren, or had children who then became his stepchildren. And I found there's these 2 kids called Lizzie and Herbert, who are called Hearn in the 1911 census. But in the 1901 census, they appear as Potter. And again, these kids weren't on my list before, and so like the entire fabric of this little family group has changed because I wasn't researching in the ways that I now research, which is, again, it's cool, but also terrifying. It's like, how did I miss these children and where have they come from? There might be another marriage involved here. And I quite like unraveling those from like the previous puzzles that I've done. So I've got that to do. And one final more thingy is Maggie Nelson, who is George Horatio Nelson's daughter, does not appear on the 1911 census with her dad. So obviously I've fleshed out George Horatio Nelson so much, but he's on the 1911 with his sons, but not the daughter. And I think the 1911 census is a year after his wife dies. So I need to find where his daughter went. It's, going to be sort of a bit of a stressful time. The daughter was the youngest of the 4 children, so maybe she was left with the grandparents, or maybe she was with an aunt or an uncle.
So she's just a little child at this.
Yes, she's quite young, so I want to find out where she's disappeared off to. So they're my little mysteries, but it felt good. I felt like I'd filled out a full layer, albeit the questions I've just said, and I can almost move on to the next layer back now, feeling confident that I've actually done my duty for those people, apart from the little rabbit holes that I've just mentioned. It's quite cool.
It's really cool. It's really cool just hearing your demonstrating of like really cool organized research practice. It's such a good tip for any of us. It's never a waste of time revisiting research we've done. We all of us always, somebody tell me if you've revisited a document and you've not spotted anything new. I'll be amazed, because our brains just move on and we look at it from different angles and we have time just to spot little marginal notes or wonder how we ever let an abbreviation just like bypass us and we didn't care about what it meant the first time round, and then this time we're like, I need to find out what that means. And yeah, so it's always worth re-looking at things. It's very cool.
It really is. Well, like I said about that Lizzie and Herbert, who are the Potters, I totally missed that the first time around. And obviously my research skills were up to scratch then, but it does change the fabric of that entire family unit. So I'm intrigued about that one, but it is a little bit freaky to think, oh my God, I completely missed this the first time. Or, I didn't know how to look at the census and maybe thought that was a different household because they had a different surname. I didn't read that it said stepdaughter or things like that. So yeah, it's definitely been a good task to go back and do it. And I do feel more confident in all those 8 people, minus my little...
With the kind of the DNA tree building hat on, because at some point you will want to go and look at your DNA. All that advice to build forward, all the side branches and build them forward in time, because your DNA matches, people alive today, are going to be the descendants of your great aunts and uncles and your great great aunts and uncles. Those are going to be your majority of your DNA matches. So knowing that Lizzie and Herbert are step relations of your blood relations means that in this instance, they're not half relations. If they were half relations, they'd have your direct ancestors 50% of his blood, wouldn't they? But because Lizzie and Herbert are step relations, they're going to have 0 blood. So there's, not to be mean, but there's no point tracing Lizzie and Herbert forward because you're not going to DNA match them. So it's just really useful having that understanding of who's full relations, who's half relations, who's step relations. If they're step relations, they definitely are useful for understanding, as you say, the fabric of the family, but they're not going to help you and make sense of your DNA match list. So it's really good doing this solid genealogy, not being kind of half cock about it and then realizing that you've got yourself up a dead end for some reason.
Yeah, it's just really funny. Again, I know I prattle on about how I've changed as a researcher, but my initial task was find a relative, find the birth date, find the death date, find the marriage date. That was it. Move on to the next one. Hopefully, once I've got all them lined up, I move a generation back and do the same again. That's how my mind initially approached the whole research element of it.
Actually, that's what if you read any advice on genealogy, it's always like start from a point that and so it tends to be yourself or a more recent point in time or whatever, but start with something and then you build back. And people would normally traditionally say using the birth, marriage and death records and the census records to gather the the generations, gather the parents. And so that's what we get told. And so you kind of get told to jump from stepping stone to stepping stone. And definitely in the past, like 15, 20 years ago, when everything wasn't so readily available and digitized, then you would want to, even just to accomplish that is such a lot of work and dedication. Whereas now we have the luxury of things being digitized, so we can readily access so many more records that we can give a fuller account of our ancestors. So we're in a really lucky time period.
We really are. I think it would be, well, I won't say I'd give up if I had to just go to the paper records, but it would be much more of a task to actually go out and find every single one of these birth certificates or marriage certificates. And then all the other things that just randomly pop up on Ancestry are so useful that I wouldn't probably even know to look at, like all the probate things. And it sounds like a real effort. You like have to book the time and find them and locate them. Whereas now, I know it's not just the hints, but obviously the hints bring a lot of them up for me. It's so much easier.
Mm. Yeah, and it's just understanding what you're doing. I think even though the records are more available, we all need to keep ourselves kind of knowledgeable and educated about what the heck is it that we're looking at? How has this record got here? And what holes might there be in the record collections if some of the papers just haven't survived the passage of time or the digitization project hasn't finished? We need to know this, because then if you don't find somebody, those could be really reasons why you're not going to find them. We need to know if it's AI answers or human generated answers. We just need to know where the information comes from, because then we know we can use our detective hats, can't we? Whereas if you don't know, you're just blindly accepting hints, which you don't do.
I don't do anymore. I do use them, but
And they are great, like you say, like leading on to new records. Like when you said the National Probate Calendar, that's not something that you'd naturally hear about in the kind of early moments of doing family history, and then it does provide really cool extra clues, doesn't it?
it does, and I'm always excited when I find a new document because you don't know they're out there. I think I mentioned it to you before about, well, I can't remember his name now, Job somebody or other, who, and he was a miner and ended up being a pub landlord, and there was like a transfer of ownership of the pub between the owner and him and a couple of other people. It's just a really cool document to look at and see, and like, okay, so this has happened, but without, well, I didn't have the knowledge that that even existed, so I never would have searched for it naturally if it hadn't come up on the hints.
And it's so fun to think about. Like, say, him and a few other people have got together and gone, right, we're going to have a pub.
Yeah, I'm not working down the pit anymore. We're gonna have a pub.
Yes, yes. What I love also, when I was hunting down, still unsuccessfully, for evidence of James Pickering and his seedsman activity, to see if I could find any adverts and trade directory listings for him. And I found a little bit, but what just really amused me, because just browsing through the trade directories, was the sheer number of pubs. I mean, if you tried to go on a pub crawl in your local area, you just wouldn't. You'd have to not go to bed and take about 4 days over it. There's so many pubs in the past. Yeah, it's funny. Really, really. So your ancestors probably part of that pub picture where there's lots of pubs
Yeah,
on every corner. Yeah.
one on every street corner. Yeah.
Mm, mm, yeah.
Well, if I get a gap, I might try and find that pub, see if it still exists.
Mm,
But that's obviously quite tangential.
mm,
It is funny though, like looking at all these facts and trying to fill out my details and like tick all my boxes for my great grandparents. It is the gaps that excite me more. It's cool finding everything that you want, but when it's like, oh, they're not here,
mm,
that's the interesting part, when you're suddenly having to push yourself a little further and do a little bit of digging.
mm.
I really like that side of it.
Like when you talked about your little ancestor, the little girl who you couldn't find on the 1911, and I really jumped into a mistake there, because when you said, oh, you couldn't find a young woman or a young girl or whatever on the 1911, I was like, oh, got to be a suffragette. Oh, and then when you said, oh, no, she's a tiny child who's just lost her mother, suddenly it's a whole different, really sad story, isn't it? And presumably the dad's at work, potentially the brothers are at work, or at least they're a bit more self-sufficient. So she hopefully is living with family members. That's what we hope for her.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And it is so funny because obviously I have researched George Horatio Nelson quite a lot. And have felt sad and sorry for him with, like, obviously both of his wives died at some point and lots of children died. But even in fleshing him out that way, it wasn't till I saw the census with him and his boys, but not his daughter and obviously not his wife, that I was like, oh my God, this is heartbreaking. This is like just the year after his wife's died, and he's having to look after these children, and he's going to work, and then he's got this young daughter he can't look after, and it just painted this really sad picture straight away. But until then, I hadn't actually thought about it, so it does change the context quite a lot.
Mm. I like the mention of your ancestor who was born in India. I mean, that has got so much potential, hasn't it?
It does, because obviously I'm always keen to get out of Yorkshire and Pudsey, so it seems daft not to go looking for this India connection. But
So, can you fill me in? So you found the person who has this India connection, presumably on a census saying they were born in India. Is that how you found them?
yes, this is my great great granddad. He was born in India. That's all the information I've got. And then he came over to live in Pudsey.
Yeah.
Oh man. And then he's had a kid also called David, just to annoy me. And the child was born in Bradford or Pudsey.
Yeah. So when you find your great great grandpa in Pudsey, how old is he?
Oh, I'll have to have a brief pause because I don't have this information.
That's okay. It'd just be really interesting to see if there's any clues with the occupation of his father. And it would also be really interesting to see if he has any other siblings and whether their birthplaces are mentioned on the census and whether that can help give you some further location clues to start knowing where the family was based in India.
Right. My great granddad has got 4 brothers and sisters,
Excellent.
but he is the eldest.
Mhm.
So they were all born in Yorkshire.
Excellent. So, of his siblings, take the oldest one, then what year were they born?
His oldest sibling was born in 1892.
Okay. And so we know the family are back in England by 1892, then, don't we? That's a
I might be a generation before him. I'm talking about the guy who isn't born in India.
So what I'm trying to establish is getting some of kind of some parameters of when the family were in India, just like trying to narrow it down a little bit. So the oldest sibling born in England gives us the date the family came back to India. Well, it doesn't give us the date. It means that they were definitely back in England by that date, doesn't it?
I was confusing it. I was doing the generation after.
That's all right.
I haven't done any research on this guy other than knowing who he married and when he was born and when he died.
Yeah.
Again, this is one of those early researches where I found the details and just left
Yeah.
it. All I know is born in Lucknow in India in 1864. I
Okay.
don't even have his parents. I've got hints as to who his parents are. Oh, and it's another David. 3 generations of David. Why do these
Yeah.
people do this to me?
Yeah.
Um,
This is exciting though. So using the records that we find really familiar, we can build it out a little bit, can't we? So you've got him born in did you say Lucknow in
yeah, Lucknow.
1864?
Yeah.
And then other things that I would want to do is you need to try and get the dates of when the family returned to England or when the family working back in time when they left for India. So just by using the census and trying to track the mum, the dad, any siblings of this guy, then you can try and work out where the family works. It's going to have the birthplaces, isn't it? And then you can also look for the overseas GRO birth registers. So I think I haven't used them for a while. Like my grandpa is in them, and one of my grannies as well. And I think they're on Find My Past. Genealogy. I can't remember where I used them. Anyway, they are available online. So then they're really cool because the registers. Maybe it was the. Let me find this out. You can definitely order the certificates, and I have definitely got digitized records which might be like high commission digitized register pages. So there'd be like a parish register page, i.e., via one of the subscription sites, then you'll be able to look at the register page. So you get just as much information or nearly as much information, effectively the same amount of information as you would do if you actually ordered a birth certificate. Yeah. So this is cool. It's cool information because it means it's quicker and easier to find this information. Then if you're going to find his birth certificate and you're going to find his siblings' birth certificates, then you're going to get lots of information, because on those birth certificates, they're going to have your 3 times great grandpa's job, and your 3 times great grandpa's job is going to give you the reason why they were out in India, isn't it?
Yes. And I've just had a sneaky peek at this suggested David Hearn, who is the father of the lad who was born in India. This is why it's irritating when it's 3 generations of David. Anyway, and it says he was born in Suffolk and died in Lancashire. So they've gone out to India for some reason.
Mm.
Ooh. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm looking at hints I shouldn't look at. Close my eyes.
But this is cool as well. So I am making this up, but what we do know about the Victorian period was but that was the era where there was this massive movement through the 1800s and people living in rural communities. And then by the end of the century, they're living in urban communities. So you imagine if you're in Suffolk and agricultural times are tough in the mid 1800s, and then you go off for whatever reason, like a young man in tough circumstances, joining the army is nothing new. So he could have joined the army. He could have been working for the civil service, something bonkers. I think it's about 2 million out of England's population of about 16 million. That's 1/6, not 60, 16 million in the middle of the 1800s were working overseas. It's something really a lot of British people were working overseas. So
This again, showing how much I don't know about history. When was the whole Indian Warrior thing going on?
So there's the Indian Mutiny, that would be 1857. But then Queen Victoria gets crowned Empress of India. I forgot, it's gone out of my head. Is it 1871? I can't remember. But later so the British Empire is still very much building, and India's classically called like the jewel in the crown. And so British kind of relations with India and dominance over India is still continuing for a few decades. It's not to glorify anything, but from a family history point of view, it means it's still a place that many of us are going to find connections with, find it interesting to find out why our ancestors go there. And it's interesting looking at both sides of the coin. So what were their drivers to make them go, and what were their drivers to make them come back, and what world did they leave, what world did they return to? So you're David Hearn, him leaving Suffolk and then ending up in Lancashire. He's left a rural community. He's stayed overseas for however many years, and then he's come back to England, gone to an much more industrial sounding area, potentially, which makes sense, doesn't he? Because he's moving for work. And living in India, it was, you have the impression, and I'm not saying it wasn't, there's like, for some people, there's definitely lives of colonial luxury, but it's still, the climate is very, very challenging. So you do see, quite poor death rates for children, things like that. It's not an easy place to live. Yeah. So you could come back to England and you're missing your family and every other reason, or you come to the end of your working life if you're a soldier or something, then that's where you want to come back.
Okay. I think this is going to be quite an interesting one to.
I think it's going to be really interesting. But I would, for the minute, because so you've got all you know about him. He's called David Hearn. He's born in 1864, and you've got his dad's name, David Hearn, but you don't know anything else. So I think with the records that you familiarly use, census and birth and marriage records, then I think we should try and build out that branch of the family as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, I've got his wife and I've got all of his children.
But you need his siblings and his parents, don't you?
Yes, I haven't got any of that. That's where.
Ones that you're going to hold super lots of clues for you.
Yes.
And then if his dad was in the civil service or the army, then that's going to be really fruitful ground for research as well. Lots of paperwork to look through.
Definitely. And I've just had a naughty quick look.
Oh, yeah.
On hints. And there's all sorts of potential. And I know none of these might be true, and I've not really checked them out yet, and I won't do right now. But there's a link to Indian select births and baptisms. but my subscription doesn't involve that, so I can't look at that anyway. There's a suggestion of a marriage in Ireland, and there's a military campaign medal award role, and there's a Chelsea pensioners administration and discharge document, which, regardless of whether they're related to my guy or not, they all sound very interesting to look at.
Yes, yes.
So I think there's going to be some good stuff coming out of this one.
I think there is. There definitely is.
And I've just naughtily had a look on the 1901 census, and this guy was 67. His wife was 28.
Mm.
It's quite a big age gap.
And so which census is that, 1921?
1901.
Yeah.
Unless, again, I could be looking at the details wrong, and chances are that could be his daughter, because they'll have named his daughter after his wife as well, because they all seem to name each other David.
Oh, next to the 28-year-old woman's name, does it say the relationship to head of household? What does it say in there?
I haven't clicked it. I didn't dare click it.
It'll tell you whether it's his wife or his daughter.
I mean, instantly, I think it's probably his daughter, because, like I've just said, he named his child David, so he probably named his daughter after his wife.
Yeah.
Okay, go on. I'll click into it if I can remember how to use the internet. Oh yeah, it's his daughter.
I think that's fine. I'm happy with that answer.
I am. I just quickly jump into conclusions. I've seen this old man with a big mustache and a musket with a really young wife. Yeah. Interesting. He's living with his daughter and his granddaughter and nobody else.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Another little note to scribble down, isn't it?
This guy's clearly going to be my homework for next week.
He is. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, I think it's going to give me a lot more questions than answers, but that's what I've got you for.
So just so that I don't have to issue a correction, because people want to get fed up, I'm going to do a correction within the podcast. So while Nathan's been looking at that, I've quickly Googled, and I was hazarding a guess that Queen Victoria was proclaimed Empress of India in 1871. It wasn't. It was 1877, following the Royal Titles Act of 1876. Which granted her new title. Anyway, so now that means we just don't have to do a confession in a future issue. Little temporary thing. So I hope that anybody, if they were listening to the podcast and they heard me a few moments ago, so 1871, I hope they haven't already hit the must email the Muppet and tell her she's got it wrong button, and then hopefully I'll save from that effort.
How embarrassing that you just didn't know that straight away.
No,
it's so obvious now you've said
it. We'll remember now, won't we?
I jest, of course, I'm clueless.
No, well, I think I'm pretty clueless too. So before we move away from David Helen, you say you've got him as your homework. I'm just curious, off the top of your head, what are you going to do about that? How are you going to tackle him?
I'll do my usual approach of locating him on the census, because obviously he is in England with his children, so I can find him there. So I know that he is about there, and I'll track him backwards using the censuses until I can't find him. And then obviously I know one of his children was born in India, so I know that they were in India during that time. So I don't really know how I'm going to research the India part of it, but at least I can loosely place them in that ballpark.
That sounds good. And I think with those other records that you mentioned, which are being thrown up by the hints, because you'll have got more information about him, his children, his parents, and his siblings, and you'll have got place names, ages, dates, names, all of that sort of stuff, then you've got a nice matrix of information. So potentially, if you find him mentioned in some of these other records, if they mention some of the other records, mention next of kin or mention family members or whatever it is, you've got a better fighting chance of knowing it is your David Helen, haven't you?
Definitely, yeah. I like to see all those names cross over and link. It just makes you much more confident, doesn't it?
Nice feeling.
So am I going to have to pay for a bigger subscription to Ancestry to know about India?
To be honest, I think your best plan, this is where you are going to have to pay more money. I think you're going to have to pay for Find My Past.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Is that the go-to place then for India?
Yes, from my understanding of memory. And I don't have any connections to India. I have my granny and grandpa were married in Ceylon in the Second World War, but they're just like fleeting people who, just were there just for a quick posting during the Second World War, got married and moved on again. I don't have this colonial connection to India, so I don't have personal experience of using the records, but I do remember that the records are held by the British Library and I think it's called the India Office Record Collections, and then Find My Past have digitised them all. And what sometimes happens is some of the companies, let's say Find My Past would digitise this massive collection, like Find My Past are the first people to digitise the 1939 register, they're the first people to digitise the 1921 census. They were the first people to digitise this massive India collection. And from memory, no one else has it yet. But because I haven't personally used it, I could have not noticed it being made available somewhere else. So check that it isn't available on Ancestry. But also, I think you're going to have to pay for Find My Past. So what you could do, gather as much information as you can do on Ancestry, if that happens to be the site you're subscribing to already with all the things you said. Then you could pause your Ancestry membership, and you could, with Find My Past, it's a little bit frustrating because you can't take out a monthly membership. You have to pay for the year. So they'll tell you it costs however much a month, but you're going to have to pay in a one lump sum, or you can pay for, I think you can pay for 3 months or 6 months, but you can't just have it for a few months. You're going to have to take the jump. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's one more thing that you can do, is you can do buy credits. And I know you can use them on the newspapers, but I'm not sure whether you can use them on other records on Find My Past. Because if you could use them on other records on Find My Past, that could be a good avenue for you to go if you don't want to have 2 subscriptions running.
Okay, cool.
All it is it's just a number of bottles of wine. But I'm going to be sober and not drink any wine and do my family history instead.
I mean, I am from Yorkshire, so...
Well, it's just, I think it's being wise. It's easy to sign up for things, and then unless you have a lot of time in your life, it's easy for the weeks to go by and you feel like you're not getting the benefit of something. And for all of us, we all need to feel like you don't want to waste money. Even if it's loads of money, you don't want to waste it.
Yeah, definitely not. Even like with Ancestry, like I've just kept that rolling continuously. But if I'm honest, there are weeks where I don't even touch it. And you're sort of like, well, should I pause it for a bit? But
really interesting talk recently, and so we were doing a series of talks on family history software. It's a software that you can put on your laptop or your desktop. Most of them are PC based. That we are going to be covering one which is Mac based and one which is PC and Mac based. So it's suitable for everybody if you've got a laptop or a desktop. And one of the key reasons to buy this software, and there is one which is free, completely utterly free, which is Legacy, and Wayne Shepherd did a presentation on it. The reason for having that is your main home for your family history is then on your own device. So every time you find a record anywhere, Ancestry, Find My Past, the National Archives, down your actual local archive, taking a photo with your phone or whatever, you can add this to your tree on your computer, on your laptop, for instance, and then you're not dependent on a subscription. So even if you pay for software, that's a one-off payment. And then when you have those weeks where you're busy or not busy, or even if it could be you've gathered loads of information but you haven't really sorted through it properly, and what you're doing with that time is you don't actually need access to any other paid thing, do you? You just need to sort through what you've got. So by having a desktop or laptop based program, you're in charge of your space. You're in charge. You could say, right, I'm going to pause that Ancestry subscription because I don't need to access all those census records I've copied to my tree because I've got them on my desktop tree. So it is a bit more work, but and I think it's the same with anything in life, isn't it? It's a balance of our time and money and how easy we find it to be organised. So if you're the sort of person who finds easily gets overwhelmed with a combination of things, keep it simple, pay the money, keep calm, keep enjoying your family history. In the scheme of things, the subscriptions, as I say, if you compare them to wine or 400-gram bars of Toblerone, they're not very much money. You can soon justify your family history subscription. Yeah.
I don't know. I do love wine and chocolate.
Yes. So they're both expensive things to like, aren't they?
You've hit my weak spot.
That's why I know. That's why I do these sums in my head.
And like, this might be a daft thing to say, but am I going to get to a point in Ancestry where maybe it can't get me any further back without a lot of faff and digging?
So you are going to get to the point, like you've got to a point now, haven't you, where you're going to need that what they have isn't they've got loads and loads of things you want. They've got loads and loads of things that you would find useful that you haven't found yet. But the precise thing you're after, information of somebody in India, the richest picking grounds are going to be the collections that you can digitize and find in my past, I suspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my past has really good military collections for that period as well. And the two most likely reasons that he's gone to India is in the civil service or the military, I would say. Could have gone for like trade, personal businessman, kind of some sort of capacity of that, or I would think it's most likely that he's gone for those two reasons, civil service or military. So family past are good for them. So, but back to ancestry, I don't think there's ever a reason where you're not, once you've done your DNA with ancestry, and I talk about pausing the subscription, and sometimes I think, I'm going to pause it, and then I'm like, oh, not this month. I'll never actually do pause it. I've even go to the pause page and think, right, I'm going to save myself money this month. I've got such a backlog of things to file up. And then I just can't quite bring myself to pause it because I know I'm going to use it and find it useful.
I just kind of wondered if, like, obviously the meticulous ticking off, Nathan, like, I've done my great grandparents, and now ideally, if I was just being boring and just going for facts, or dates and numbers, should I say, I do my great grandparents, and then I can only chart them so far back on the censuses before it gets really tricky and hard and not as straightforward. So I'm going to have more. Obviously, the further back I go, the more gaps I'm going to get.
Well, but what is going to happen is, so I'm really confident using the censuses. You're really confident about birth, marriage, and death certificates, and you've used parish registers as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit.
The parish registers are nice because they potentially, if a baby gets baptized tomorrow in a church, they're still going to go in a parish register. Fewer people get baptized today, but they're still living records which continue to be kept. So from a family history point of view, if you're looking at a Victorian ancestor, then parish records are well worth considering for finding details of their baptisms and their marriages and their burials. Like, interestingly, by the middle of the 1800s, I think it's about half of people weren't actually regular Church of England worshippers. They were nonconformist, i.e. they wanted to be Methodist or Baptist or, something else. But you still got a really good chance of finding your ancestors. There's still half of them who are regular Church of England worshippers. And if the nonconformist denomination didn't have a burial ground, then you could still potentially find your ancestors being buried in the Church of England, their local parish. Then with marriages, it's different again. But you're going to, through the Victorian period, you're going to have been using these baptism registers, all well and good. You'll be using them in conjunction with the census. When you get back to the early 1800s, the census, so 1841, England and Wales, Scotland, that's the earliest census you're going to have. Around the same time, 1854 for Scotland. I'm just telling you this because when you get back to your Mackays, 1854 for Scotland, 1st of January 1855 for Scotland, and then 1st of July 1837 for England and Wales. So it's birth, marriage, and death. The state ones stop, but the parish registers continue. But you're going to be confident with the parish registers by now because you'd have woven them into your later 1800 research. So you can continue to use them back into the 1800s. And these parish registers were set up by Thomas Cromwell, so the one who ordered the dissolution of the monasteries. So they go way back, okay? So obviously a lot's happened in that time. There have been any number of floods. There have been lots of hungry mice. There have been lackadaisical, drunken record keepers. There's any number of reasons why some records haven't survived, but there potentially are records to take you back to Tudor times, yeah? And these aren't comprehensively digitized anywhere. Again, Find Past is really good for parish registers, so you could find that actually, as time goes on, you're going to find that you want to go there. But it's worth continuously keeping an eye on, just go to the card catalogue on Ancestry. So once you do get to the parish registers, and put in your place name and see what have they got for your place name and the time period you're interested in. And then go and have a look on Find My Past as well and go, what have they got again for the place name and the time period that you're in? And we have a really useful blog, which I can't remember what it's called, on our website. Yes, I can. I think it's called Trace Your Ancestors for Free online. So if you go to, I think it's in the Getting Started section, and a photo is a picture of people skipping. Go in there. Anyway, there's a list of 5 URLs which show you how to find what is in each of these big paid websites where it has the main big listing for each of the big websites. So you need to know what you're paying for. And these lists tell you what you're paying for. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds really cool.
So
Really.
just a quick caveat with the parish registers. Obviously, some of them didn't survive, and when they start off, they're really, really useless. So they'll say that Nathan had a son called, I'm making it up so they want to affect their privacy, Marmaduke. Okay, but it won't even mention the mother's name or anything. So they are slightly annoying, but they are better than nothing, aren't they? Time you got back to Tudor times, you're doing really well anyway. I've never got back that far.
No, I mean that's a long time away, and there's so many rabbit holes for me to fall down before I even get anywhere near.
Probably need to accept to be paying for Ancestry for the rest of your life. And probably soon you'll start paying for Family Pass too.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
What have you been up to anyway? I'm hogging the air.
So very quickly, so I have done some of my homework. Have I done my filing, any more of my filing? No. But I have written up, I said I was going to start writing up every week what I'd done with my research that week. And so I have started doing that, and I've put it as a blog on my website. And then at the bottom, I've put blog last updated, whatever date. And I'm really excited about this plan because I do love a research log, but it's pretty dry, and it's not something that you'd ever share with anyone else. They just lose the will to live trying to wade their way through it all. So this kind of summary feels like it's a good little summary. So I like it because of that. And I've tried to make it so that my mum could get a cup of coffee and read it and go, oh, that's interesting. And I've put it in pictures, just to document censuses and things like that. If I have photos of the people, put in a few photos of the people as well. And then I got so excited about it. I've actually done a few of them. I can't remember, maybe like 2 or 3 just in the last week. I felt really encouraged because over the years I've spent ages scanning in photos, collecting documents, having half-baked stories in my head, having my a bit overwhelming research log. Now I feel I've got something to show for it. So now I'm on a total mission to do this. I realise, so what I need to do is, like you, I need to write a list of all my relations, because so now I have this blog for Mary Ann Pickering, and it says, who is she? I go, she's Puss's granny. Okay, so the website is aimed for my family, so that's fine. We all know who Puss is. Puss is my great granny. It's my children's great great granny. So Mary Ann Pickering is my 2 daughters. It's their great great granny's granny. So it's distant, isn't it? So it means I've got a lot of people I haven't covered, and they might want to know more recent people. So I'm going to get a picture of our family tree so people can just have the deceased people on it and go, these are your anchors, work out from here who the people are. I think that's quite doable. And then what else am I going to do? I'm going to also have little lists. So like, do you want to find out military ancestors? Click here, and then I'll have links to all the blogs about military ancestors. Do you want to find out about children? Click here. Do you want to find out about pets? Click here.
Wow, that sounds lovely. It sounds like a massive task, but that's like
it is. But I've done loads of the hard work, and when I have actually started doing it over the years. I've just done it really, really slowly, but I've just realised from my research log, like revisiting research I hadn't done for a year, and making myself feel a bit depressed that I hadn't kind of coalesced it into something more permanent and shareable, that it's made me realise that I really, really want to do this. And I think because I'm a granny now as well, I've got, it's not just my 2 daughters, I've got 2 little grandchildren. I've got people who might want to read this in years to come when I'm off in the ether somewhere.
Well, it's nice to share it as well, because obviously you've spent such a long time doing it. It would be weird in some ways just to keep it to yourself. I've got all this information and then not give it to someone or not hand it down. It's because obviously, even for me, the little amount I've done, I want to tell somebody about what I'm doing. Otherwise, it's just this weird thing. Oh, I've got all this knowledge about my family and all these stories. Well, I don't really have stories, but
I'd like to tell you something really cool. So my website's just on WordPress, and it is just like, anyone's welcome to see it, but it is just for our family. So it's written very much, has everyone's nicknames. If you're a living person, you're there under your nickname, so to protect your privacy or whatever. But I get the statistics, and the thing which is getting the most marginal traffic at the moment is a blog post called Mouse's Marrow Chutney. So that's my granny's marrow chutney recipe. And of course, it's the perfect time of year for making marrow chutney, isn't it? And she had a legendary marrow chutney thing. So I'm like, yes, I don't even mind whether they're relations or not, but people are checking out the marriage chat route.
That's cool. So your ancestors' recipes been used in houses all across the world now. Yeah,
Yes.
that's really,
Fun, isn't it?
yeah, that's lovely.
Do you know, I think I'd better go now because you know what I have to do is quite exciting. We're having a bit of a revamp on the Family Tree website, and it's exciting. I've got really cool plans for you to do, Nathan. I haven't even told you about yet.
Oh, goody.
I think you're going to like them. Anyway, I've got to go to a meeting about it now. Got to do some serious work, not just chat podcast.
Not just enjoy our family history.
No.
Cool. Okay, well, we've all got our homework. You carry on as you are. I will invest.
Carry on with the blogging. You're going to carry on with your India research.
I will take a tangent and go down that path.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. It's really kind of you. And if you'd like to get our e-newsletter, if you don't already get it, then it's www.family-tree.co.uk/newsletter-sign-up. I've learnt it at long last.